As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't.
This is the 5th most watched TED Talk of all time, with 67 million views. The presentation is the basis for the best-selling book, Start With Why. The premise is simple. Apple, Martin Luther King, the Wright brothers, their success didn't come from the what or the how, it was thanks to their why. The golden circle idea suggests what a company does isn't so important. How it manufactures its products is important but not vital. The paramount component of any company's success is the why.
And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist?
People don't buy what you do or how you do it, they buy why you do it. Customers camp outside stores before a new iPhone launch, not just for its sleek design or cutting-edge features, but because they resonate with Apple's purpose and vision.
Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one?
That's Apple's why, thinking differently and challenging the status quo. This sparks the imagination of customers who refuse to settle for ordinary, crave something beyond the mainstream, and feel empowered by the chance to stand out. Or does it? Simon Sinek is attempting to reverse engineer a story for Apple's success. He's creating a compelling narrative that makes it seem like Apple's success is predictable and understandable. And yet, this reverse engineering is problematic. Even Steve Jobs says coming up with an explanation after the event is wrong.
You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards.
To help explain where Simon Sinek's theory goes wrong, I've invited Alex Edmans back on the show.
My name's Alex Edmans. I'm a professor of finance at London Business School, a non-executive director, and author of a book, May Contain Lies, about bias and misinformation.
Alex's book details why Simon Sinek's work might not be as reliable as many think.
So, let me first stand in Simon Sinek's corner and present what he's arguing. He says that if a company has a why, it has a purpose, it has a mission, it has a vision, it becomes successful. So he gives examples of Apple, clearly successful, first company to be worth $1 trillion. He gives examples of non-profits. So Wikipedia, this beat the Encyclopedia Britannica as the world's fountain for knowledge. It had a why. He gives the example of Martin Luther King. He said, I have a dream, not I have a plan. And this is why having a why is so important. It connects with people. It's something which inspires hearts and minds. So he says, well, this is what's key to a company being successful. And so how does this play into our biases? Well, first, there's the narrative fallacy. There could be tons of other reasons for why Apple was successful. It could be that Steve Jobs was adopted, according to Walter Isaacson. It could be that Steve Jobs was really great at design. It could be that he was extremely demanding. He'd come down on you like a ton of bricks if you made a mistake or did not share his passion for perfection in design. There could be tons of other answers, but why he wanted to have the idea that they started with why, that's a nice narrative.
Alex says the problem with Simon Sinek's conclusions is that they prey on this cognitive bias known as the narrative fallacy.
What is the narrative fallacy? So this is, we will try to weave in a cause-effect relationship, a narrative, to something which might have some completely different explanations. So let's have a concrete example. So why is Steve Jobs so successful? Well, if you were to read his biography by Walter Isaacson, this argues that one big driver was the fact that he was adopted. So he was adopted, and because he was adopted, he felt abandoned by his birth parents. This drove him to want to prove himself, and so he wanted to work really hard and be obsessive about certain things like the quality of the design, and this drove him to become successful. And so that is a narrative, that is a story. Stories are really powerful, right? This is why we had the oral tradition long before we had writing. People learned through stories. And it's a story which sort of tugs at our heartstrings. We root for the underdog. We like the fact that the person who made it rich was not somebody born with a silver spoon in his or her mouth. It was somebody who had to overcome adversity, such as being abandoned by your birth parents. But the problem with this explanation is it's just not true. Right, Steve Jobs himself said there's some notion that I was abandoned and I had to prove myself. But no, I've always felt loved. I've always felt accepted. But if you are to weave a story that people believe in, if that story fits confirmation bias, then people will lap it up and accept it, and therefore your book will sell a lot, which is the case for Walter Isaacson's biography.
Both Sinek's and Isaacson's books follow a proven formula. Share a single striking idea designed for memorability, illustrate it with as many supporting examples as possible, and selectively present evidence that fits the narrative. These stories are so compelling because they exploit the narrative fallacy. Alex says that the narrative fallacy is our temptation to see two events and believe that one caused the other, even if there were different causes or no cause at all besides luck. A 1975 study reveals how we create these explanations for random events. Organisational psychologist Barry Straw divided students into groups, gave them identical financial data for a fictitious company, and asked them to forecast the future sales and profits. After, he told some groups that they were accurate and some that they were incorrect, but he did this completely at random, regardless of their results. Some groups were told randomly that they were right, others were randomly told they were wrong. He then asked the teams to evaluate their dynamics. Groups labelled as successful described themselves as communicative, cohesive, and motivated, while unsuccessful groups reported poor dynamics. However, there was no actual difference in the performance of the groups. The outcomes were fabricated, yet the teams reverse-engineered narratives to explain their results. Supposedly successful teams attributed their success to openness and collaboration, while failing teams blamed their failure on disagreement or lack of focus. This shows how easily we create stories to justify outcomes regardless of the truth. Like participants in this study, we believe in narratives that explain random outcomes. Apple's why is to challenge the status quo and think differently. Because Apple are successful, we believe the why must be the reason millions of customers buy its products.
And why is it a nice narrative? Is it plays into the biases. Confirmation bias, again, we want to believe that you can achieve something that you want to as long as you have a passion and a why. And it also plays into black and white thinking, right? A why is what we need in all companies at all times. It applies to companies, it applies to non-profits, it applies to people. When this might not be the case. It might be that sometimes, well, the secret to success is just hard work. You don't need to think about a broader mission or vision, just get the details correct. But the idea that the why is a secret source to success, if he sells that, then everybody will buy his book, irrespective of whether you're running a company or a non-profit or whether you're an individual.
The problem with Sinek's golden circle theory is that he claims it's a universal rule. He says every company, every non-profit, every person can benefit from having a why. He backs up this claim not only with examples, but also with some suspect science. The golden circle, he claims, is backed by biology. The human brain is divided into three components, which correspond perfectly to the three layers of the golden circle. The outermost layer of the brain, the neocortex, governs the what. It's responsible for rational, analytical thinking. However, because the neocortex evolved relatively recently, it has limited influence over our behaviour. Instead, our thoughts and actions and even our purchasing decisions are shaped by the brain's deeper, more ancient core, a primal centre that we share with our earliest ancestors from millions of years ago. And that centre is the limbic brain. It corresponds to the how and the why and is driven by emotion. Since it's at the core, it's responsible for all human behaviour and decision-making. Because of this scientific evidence, Sinek claims a why will succeed in all parts of the world. Apple became a worldwide success because it connected with the limbic brain, which is present in all humans, young and old, male and female, black and white. They are all connected with the why. It might sound convincing, but there's actually no real evidence for this. There is no footnotes to peer-reviewed reliable studies in Sinek's Golden Circle chapter. There is no study that compares companies with a Y to another group of companies without a Y. If there was, you could perhaps reveal that Y companies grew more over time, but there's no evidence for that. There's also no neuroscientific studies that connect a limbic brain with a Y. Alex writes how Sinek is an ex-advertising salesman, not a neuroscientist with knowledge of the limbic brain, nor is he a business professor who's tested the hypothesis that having a why leads to success, nor is he a CEO who can draw from decades' experience, albeit at specific companies. Sinek has no scientific evidence to back up his claims, and he has no experience to justify his position. He links successful companies with his theory to prey on the narrative fallacy. We believe the book, Start With Why, not because it's backed by reliable evidence, but because we also fall for the narrative fallacy. We see two events and believe that one caused the other, even when no link exists. The problem with Simon Sinek isn't that he's a fraud or a liar. I don't think either of those things are true. It's just that he popularized an unreliable idea, and that idea has been followed by millions of people and thousands of businesses. Yet, it's a waste of time. There is no evidence linking your why with success. In reality, Sinek's millions of followers might have been better off focusing on something more reliable, backed by science with hard, genuine evidence. Now, obviously, I don't recommend you read this book after today's episode, but there are 25 books I would suggest you read that are backed by some pretty resounding scientific evidence. If you want to check out my reading list, which contains 25 books to read in 2025 and 5 to avoid, just click the link in the description below to download the reading list for free. Cheers.